Don't recommend that kids follow my example, though.
Well, it sounds like you've had quite the journey throughout your career. And speaking of journeys, we talked a little bit earlier about the history of Pad 39A, which we see over your shoulder there in the distance. How does space travel look different from the days when you were an astronaut compared to the last 10 years or so?
Kate, I think it's dramatically different. I mean, the techniques, the orbital mechanics, everything, all the laws and everything are the same. But it's the face of space flight today that is dramatically different. I'm so excited to be here this evening for this launch because having I was telling somebody earlier today, just the thought of having an all commercial crew, a crew of
Bueno, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo les va?
non-conventional
Hola,
astronauts
Diego.
lift off
Sí, creo que
from the
empecé un
same
poquito
launch pad
tarde,
where Neil
¿no?
Armstrong
Hace
got
ya
off and
varias
Buzz
horas
Aldrin
que
left before they
está
stepped on the
SpaceX con
moon.
su
It's just
streaming,
flabbergasting.
pero
It's sort
bueno,
of
a veces uno tiene
it's the
otras
complete
ocupaciones y la verdad me era
cycle of a tale of two halves
imposible
from where it was
trabajar
nothing
y
but
justo me
government
llaman por
to where
teléfono
now
para
we can
colmo.
actually have an all civilian,
Bueno,
all commercial
la
flight
verdad, vamos a
where
apagar aquí el
NASA's really not
teléfono
not
un
involved at all, other
ratito.
than being the host here
La
in the
verdad que
Space Center.
no pude realmente
And we're so
conectarme antes,
thankful that you guys
pero lo
are able
importante
to
es
host us.
empezar.
Now, if
Estamos
SpaceX
todavía
were
a
hosting
tiempo,
you on today's
1
mission,
hora, 2 minutos
imagine.
del momento del lanzamiento. Gracias por hacernos el aguante. La verdad que estamos viviendo un momento muy, muy importante eh, en esta era aeroespacial. Un segundito que voy a arreglar aquí un par de cositas. Se ha congelado un poquito la imagen, pero bueno, tenemos mucho tiempo para poder hacer un update a la página.
And then I had an opportunity to say hello to them before they walked out today. And my advice to them was relax, enjoy it, suck it up, really spend time in the window to look at the incredible beauty of our planet from a perspective that not very many humans will have had. We've flown 500 and some odd humans to space, but as you all keep pointing out, When I flew my Hubble Space Telescope mission, we were at 600 kilometers, and that was a view that only people who had gone to the moon had before. And we've not had any views like that since, because we've just not gone that high. They are going to be in a unique position looking at this planet from almost 600 kilometers, and it's breathtakingly different from looking on board the International Space Station. That's awesome, but it's amazing how much just the additional 100 or so kilometers adds to your perspective. You don't see the whole planet, but they're going to see a lot more of it than people see from the International Space Station. And I just hope they'll take an opportunity to suck it up and enjoy it and visualize it, so they can tell stories about it to their children and grandchildren and to every kid they meet when they come back. Because that's actually the most important role for an astronaut, is to become storytellers and help people understand why it's important to take care of our planet and why we're running out of time, and we've got to be better stewards of the planet. So I'm excited for them to have this opportunity.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. As the mission name indicates, one of the primary functions of this mission is to inspire others. So you hit the nail on the head there for sure.
Exactly.
Charlie Bolden, former NASA administrator and NASA astronaut, thank you so much for joining us today. Back over to Jesse as we continue to tick down to T0.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Charlie Bolden. That was an incredible interview, and great to hear from him, our partners at NASA. It's just so great. Teamwork really makes the dream work. So if you're just now joining us, you picked a great time, as we are approximately T-minus 56 minutes and counting until launch. Welcome to the coverage for the mission known as Inspiration 4, the first all-civilian mission to space. Liftoff time is still holding for 8:02 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're tracking no issues with Falcon 9 or Dragon. The range is green, the weather is cooperating. Over the last 3 hours, Jared Isaacman, Dr. Cyan Proctor, Haley Arsenault, and Chris Sombrosky donned their SpaceX spacesuits in our brand new SpaceX suit-up room, and were then transported to the pad where our crew entered the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft, which you've been seeing live on your screen the past few hours.
Yeah, but before we go any further, we have to get reacquainted with our crew. Let's take a moment and learn a little bit more about Jared. He is a 38-year-old Inspiration 4 commander. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Shift 4 Payments, a father and husband, and has set multiple world records as a pilot. When he was younger, Jared flew in over 100 air shows and dedicated every performance flight to great causes, and today is no different. This mission is named Inspiration 4 in recognition of the 4-person crew's mission to inspire support for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Jared has donated $100 million himself and is hoping to raise another $100 million to support the nonprofit organization. This $200 million goal for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital would not be possible without Jared's dedication to a greater cause. Here's more about the New Jersey native and self-described aviation and aerospace fan.
I grew up in New Jersey, and when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a doctor. My older brother's a doctor. I watched the show ER as a kid, and I thought that's pretty cool. I think, saving lives is a pretty important thing. But, life took me in a different direction. My interest in aviation and aerospace goes back since I was a kid. I mean, the first computer I built, I was playing Falcon 2.0, and then, upgraded to play Falcon 3.0. I went to Aviation Challenge, which is part of Space Camp as a kid. I was a observer of SpaceX from the outside looking in, like a lot of people. And then, my opportunity to kind of see what the inside was like began in October of 2020, when the idea of Inspiration 4 started to come about. A big part of what we're trying to achieve with Inspiration 4 is to send, an inspiring message really to the world about what is certainly possible up there in space, but also what we can accomplish here on Earth as well, which is why, this massive fundraising effort for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is such a big part of our mission. To me, having some balance where you're trying to tackle a problem of today so you can earn the right to keep making progress tomorrow is just a philosophy I've tried to live by for some time. the advice I would give my younger self, you can aim high, you can dream big, and even things that people would say is next to impossible, you can accomplish it. I totally believe like we all have, that fundamental obligation to leave the world a better place than we found it. I'm Jared Isaacman, and I'm the commander of Inspiration 4.
For this first all-civilian mission to orbit, Jared wanted his crewmates to represent the best of humanity, pillars he's identified as leadership, hope, generosity, and prosperity. As commander of the mission, Jared holds the seat of leadership. For the seat of hope, Jared went to St. Jude and was introduced to Haley Arsenault.
Haley is from Memphis, Tennessee, and serves as the medical officer of the Inspiration 4 mission, overseeing medical care and experiments. When she was 10, she was diagnosed with bone cancer. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital helps her with groundbreaking treatment, including chemotherapy and limb-sparing surgery that resulted in replacing her femur bone with a prosthetic. Now she is currently a physician's assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, the same place that saved her life so many years ago. At 29 years old, she represents a couple of firsts for this mission that's already the first civilian mission to go into space. Haley will be the youngest American to go into space and the first person to go into space with a prosthetic body part. Here's more on Haley, who occupies the seat of hope on the Inspiration 4 mission.
I'm so excited to be going to space, and I'm just a regular person. I am so lucky that I got a phone call asking if I wanted to go to space. I'm from Louisiana. I was a super active, super outgoing kid, involved in everything, and I actually had just gotten my black belt in Taekwondo a couple days before I was diagnosed with cancer. I definitely am excited to represent those that aren't physically perfect. I want to bring this experience back and share with everyone I encounter, and just what this represents for the new age in space travel and who can be an astronaut. I've thought a lot about launch day. I've even had some dreams about launch day, and I still don't know what will be going through my mind. I know I'm going to be incredibly excited. And of course, I have the window seat. Looking out the window and seeing Earth from space is going to be so incredible. Can't even put into words. What I'm absolutely most excited about is we're going to call the St. Jude patients from space. And I'll get to video call these kids that I've gotten to treat, and these kids going through cancer treatment and getting to show them what life after cancer can look like. It's been incredible for me to watch how much this mission has already touched the kids at St. Jude and how much hope it's given them. I love this one little girl I talked to recently. She said, I can't wait to be an astronaut. Like, there was no if in there. She just couldn't wait for it to happen. I think that's what hope is. I am Haley Arsenault, Medical Officer of Inspiration 4.
As part of the effort to raise money for St. Jude, Jared decided to give away one seat to a person at random who donated to St. Jude's cause. That seat, the seat of generosity, went to Christopher Sombrosky. Christopher Sombrosky of Seattle, Washington is the mission specialist of today's flight, helping to manage payloads, science experiments, and communications to mission control. He is a 42-year-old mechanical and diagnostics lead at Lockheed Martin and a United States Air Force veteran. As an amateur astronomer, he grew up with a natural curiosity about outer space and even worked as a U.S. Space Camp counselor. He was awarded the seat of generosity after contributing to a special fundraising campaign for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Let's meet Chris, the Inspiration 4.
56.80, the propellant load go, no-go poll is now open.
Let's meet Chris, the Inspiration 4 mission specialist.
When I found out I was going to space, I was dumbfounded. I think I was just struck dumb for days. The seed was planted for me to fall in love with space when I was little and started launching little rockets in my front yard with my dad, the first of which is still probably stuck in a Florida pine tree somewhere. But when I first saw a space shuttle launch in person from the causeway, 6 to 8 miles away, you could still feel that rumble pounding through your chest. That kind of just shifted my foundation a little bit. And I knew from there on out, I had to be somehow a part of space. whether it was helping support a mission or lobbying for folks to be able to go into space. That's where I wanted to be. Of course, I'm going to be looking down at my home in Western Washington. I'm also looking to see what I don't see, and that's going to be lines on a map or those walls that seem to separate all of us ideologically or politically or even geographically or physically. Those don't exist when you get far enough out. And I'm really hoping to bring back that sense of what it means to only have that one small line that matters to all of us, and that's the atmosphere that keeps us separated from, the vacuum of space. As we get to launch day, I am gonna have the biggest smile going ear to ear. It's gonna be, I'm gonna be shaking with excitement. No fears or jitters at all about what's going to happen, but man, that's gonna be a heck of a show. I'm Chris Zembrowski, mission specialist of Inspiration 4.
Jared reserved the fourth seat for someone who exemplified the entrepreneurial spirit. This fourth seat, representing prosperity, was awarded to Dr. Cyan Proctor. She is from Tempe, Arizona, and serves as the pilot for today's mission. She's 51 years old, is an entrepreneur, an educator, poet, artist, and active voice in the space exploration community. She's passionate about encouraging others to use their unique space to inspire those within their reach and beyond as part of her Space to Inspire motto. Dr. Cyan was awarded the seat of prosperity after being selected as the top entrant of an independently judged online business competition conducted by the Shift4Shop e-commerce platform. Here's more about Dr. Proctor and her love of exploring planet Earth.
The day of launch, I'm going to be thinking about how my entire life has led up to this moment. I was born on the island of Guam, and the reason why I was born there is that my dad worked for the NASA tracking station. And so I feel like space has always been a part of me. When I got that call, that Zoom, and Jared was on there, and he said that, they picked me for the prosperity seat, that I was going to go to space with him and be part of the Inspiration 4. It really was like getting the golden ticket for Willy Wonka. Everything in my life finally came into focus, and I realized that it was all about this moment in time. I won the prosperity seat for Inspiration 4, and I did that not as a geoscientist or an explorer or an analog astronaut, which are all on my resume. I actually won this as a poet and an artist. We are striving for that Star Trek generation, that idea of a just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive space, or a Jedi space. I'm gonna be the first Black female pilot of a spacecraft ever. And to me, that just blows me away. And I wanna encourage the next generation to dream that this is possible. And a Jedi space, that's what that's about. I'm Dr. Cyan Proctor, and I'm the mission pilot for Inspiration 4.
Coming up on T-minus 45 minutes, we're waiting for the launch director to give instructions to the team.
Complete, and the team is ready for crew access arm, propellant load, and launch. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they'll approve aborting the countdown. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold, hold, hold on the countdown net. Launch control will abort the launch auto sequence immediately and proceed into the launch abort sequence. At T-minus 10 seconds, launch control will be hands-off and relying on automated abort criteria for the remainder of the count. Operators advise the launch director whether structural breakup or fire is imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personnel safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. Launch control, you may proceed with arming the crew arm for movement.
So you've heard the instructions and a great view from the camera on the fixed service structure looking down the crew arm. SpaceX team has been pulled. The 7 operators on Falcon 9 in firing room 4 at Kennedy Space Center have indicated they are go for propellant load of the Falcon 9 and launch. The crew is given a go. The Dragon team's given a go. We're moving into the next of the major steps, retracting the crew access arm. This will take a couple of minutes. We're going to follow that by arming the launch escape system, and then at T-minus 35 minutes, begin propellant load of the Falcon 9. And sharing in the background here at Hawthorne, keep watching the arm moving away as we get deeper into the countdown. Weather continues to be good for Falcon 9 launch. Range is ready to support. All systems remain green and go. Arm continuing to move away. Once it's in position, we ought to hear the instructions to the crew to close and lock their visors, and then arm the escape system on the Dragon spacecraft.
The countdown clock is continuing to tick, and we are now at T-minus 42 minutes from launch. We're standing by the crew arm. The crew access arm has retracted, and that is one of the last major visual milestones that we'll see in preparation for liftoff, and it's slowly moving back here, should conclude shortly. And shortly thereafter, once the crew arm has been retracted, we should hear the call out that the launch escape system is armed. And from there, we'll hear that Falcon 9 prop load has started.
We saw our Inspiration 4 crew members suit up about 3 hours ago in our brand new suit up room located in the Falcon support building.
Crew access arm retraction complete.
That is good news. The crew access arm has finished retracting away from the vehicle. So the team suited up at...
SpaceX, you are go for section 7 of 4.100. Close visors and arm the launch escape system.
In copy that, SpaceX, we're go for section 7 of 4.100. We're closing visors and arming LES.
Okay, the next major step, you see the view of the crew inside the Inspiration 4 capsule, closing their visors. Make sure they're locked and sealed. The next step will be arming the launch escape system. That's where the Super Draco thrusters are enabled. So if anything happens from here through the countdown or flight, Dragon has the ability to leave Falcon 9 and carry the crew into a safe recovery out in the ocean. We're waiting now for the call out. The launch escape system is armed.
Yeah, John, you mentioned the launch escape system, and
launch escape system is verified armed.
And there's that call out. The launch.
Copy that, SpaceX, we're closing out 4.100.
Copy that, Dragon.
There's that call out that the launch escape system is now armed. And again, this is the first of its kind escape system to provide this escape capability all the way to orbit. You can hear the team here is getting really excited as we march towards T0.
So the launch escape system, let's talk a little bit more about that. It utilizes the Super Draco engines that are installed into the Dragon capsule. There are 8 of them. There are 8 Super Draco engines on the Dragon capsule, and they're aptly named Super Dracos. They differ from the regular Dracos just a little bit. The Draco engines that are on the Dragon that help in orbit maneuvers, those produce about 90 pounds of force in the vacuum space. A single Super Draco engine produces 15,000 pounds of force. And so altogether, it produces over 120,000 pounds of force, and that is what is needed in case of an emergency to accelerate the Dragon capsule and crew away from any type of emergency.
Exactly. And like you said, those Super Dracos are just super powered Draco engines. And the only time they are ever utilized is in that launch abort procedure. So we are not expecting to use them today, but we do take safety very seriously, and we take every measure possible to ensure that the crew has options and has an escape in the worst of scenarios. And like Jason mentioned before, it's the first of its kind and provides an escape capability for the crew all the way to orbit.
Yes, so that launch escape system is currently armed. Once in orbit, we actually disarm that, and we'll be relying only on the Draco engines from there on out.
Yeah. Now, next up, we will be having prop load begin, and this is basically when when Falcon comes alive. We begin to load liquid oxygen and rocket-grade kerosene, also known as RP1, into both the first and second stages. Dragon is already fully loaded. The fuels for Dragon, their hypergulls, get fully loaded down the street from Pad 39A a week or two in advance to launch. So it's already locked and loaded. Up next is the prop load for Falcon 9.
One thing while we've got a moment, we were talking about Super Dracos and contingency aborts. You will hear call-outs probably during the ascent, stage 1A, stage 2A, stage 1B.
Propellant tanks will be venting for propellant load.
That just means various points in time, if an escape was necessary, the Dragon flight computer is programmed to do different things. How long the engines will burn, how long it'll wait to coast to apogee, what it'll do to come back down when the parachutes are deployed. So when you hear those, it's usually the crew giving the call out, the ground echoing it. That just indicates we are moving farther and farther away from the launch pad. And so if a contingency arose, different sequences would be performed in the Dragon flight computer. Right now, we're just 90 seconds away from the start of propellant loading. We're at T-minus 36 minutes, 26 seconds. Everything continues to look good for Crew Dragon's fourth launch with people. Today, the first all-civil mission to low Earth orbit. Now we should hear a call out right at T-minus 35 minutes when propellant load begins. Propellant loading will start on the first stage with liquid oxygen and RP1 kerosene fuel. We'll also begin loading kerosene fuel on the second stage. And it'll take us a little bit deeper into the countdown before we put liquid oxygen onto the second stage. And everything wraps up inside the last 10 minutes with the very last propellant finishing up at just T-minus 2 minutes.
So there on your screen is the Falcon 9 rocket at Pad 39A, and at the very top is the Crew Dragon capsule where the Inspiration 4 crew awaits liftoff in just about 35 minutes. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the first all-civilian mission to orbit, aka these are non-professional astronauts. They're people like you and me that are they're going to be going up to 575 kilometers, and they're going to be orbiting Earth there at that altitude for 3 whole days. So you can hear the voices in the background here that are getting a little louder. The excitement in the building here at SpaceX headquarters is certainly growing.
Propellant load has started.
Especially with that call right there.
We're inside T-minus 35 minutes. We are right on time. Propellant load start call out has begun. The fill and drain valves for the first and second stage fuel tanks and the first stage liquid oxygen tank now coming open. Ground system pumps beginning to push the propellant into the Falcon 9. As we said, that'll continue all the way down to T-minus 2 minutes. We'll hear call outs and bring status as we go through the countdown. But currently, everything looking good at Pad 39A for the launch of the Inspiration 4 crew in just over 34 minutes.
So our crews, like Kate mentioned, are at the top of the vehicle sitting inside of the Dragon capsule. Jared, Cyan, Haley, and Chris have been training for this journey pretty much ever since the announcement that they'd all been selected as crewmates for the Inspiration 4 mission in March. What's super cool is that they are going through the same exact Dragon training as our NASA astronauts. In order to get to visit low Earth orbit, our teams at SpaceX have spent hundreds of hours teaching the crew about orbital mechanics, how to live in space and microgravity, and even running simulations of what a full mission would look like while seated inside of Dragon.
Yeah, the Inspiration 4 crew has completed numerous simulations, including a 30-hour and 12-hour end-to-end simulation in our Dragon trainer. They trained not only at SpaceX, but they also did a few other trainings, centrifuge training. They flew some fighter jets together, did some aerobatics in these jets, some flips, and experienced some real G's before this mission today.
Yeah, they even got to pilot the jets themselves, which was super cool to see.
They also completed a zero-G flight, which you can see them there, almost like superheroes. They even climbed Mount Rainier in Washington, which looks like a very difficult hike.
Yes, I think during the docuseries, it was almost a whiteout condition, but they kept trekking along. It was almost 10 hours of hiking, 4,000 plus feet elevation, one of the serious hikes that you can do up in Washington.
Yeah, some great team building. And they even signed their Falcon 9 booster that is sitting on the pad, and that is them with their signatures on the vehicle that they will be lifting off in just over 30 minutes from now. This team has studied nearly 100 different training lessons covering all aspects of the mission. At the end of training each week, the crew recorded video diaries of their experiences. In their own words, here's the crew talking about their various training over the last 6 months.
Jared Isaacman here, Commander Inspiration 4, and we're like 4 months and a day away from our intended launch date.
This week was really intense because we had a lot of the systems. We got to go into the sim.
Going through some CRM training and looking at what the mission overview is going to look like.
Talked a lot about teamwork and the SpaceX culture.
Week 2 of training at SpaceX complete. This was a heavy week.
I just completed another week at SpaceX, and it was intense.
A lot of good building blocks. So you start in the beginning of the week with smaller things like losing comms to, okay, some circumstances are not so good, and then some get really bad where you have to plan an emergency deorbit, which we initiate ourselves in that.
But man, challenging. I didn't realize how much upper body strength I need, so I need to hit the gym the next couple of months and build up some more muscles.
Today was my favorite day of training because today was the medical training day.
Learn some more about some of the medical experiments we're going to be working with and helping to advance what we know about humans in spaceflight.
We've all contributed all sorts of fluids now to the greater scientific cause.
But the best part is we all got in our spacesuits together.
We got to wear spacesuits, strap into the simulator, and feel like we were actually going to space.
Hello again, Chris here, and it's August 2nd, 2021, 44 days from our launch in September. If everything keeps going to plan, and it's been an incredible week last week, working with SpaceX teams down at Kennedy Space Center, and then back here in Hawthorne this week for some sims.
This spacesuit that I got fitted for about 7 months ago, I actually get to see and try on and do a bunch of maneuvers in to make sure that it's comfortable and then I can move. And I am just so excited for this because, I mean, this is the spacesuit I'm going to wear leaving the planet.
I'm just so honored and thankful and grateful to be a part of this historic mission and a part of the SpaceX team.
Y'all are working so hard to get to Mars and beyond. We want to provide great data, and we're really excited to be part of this.
All right, well, thanks everybody for a fantastic time here in Hawthorne, and also down at Kennedy. We've been doing training down there as well. So really appreciate everything you guys been doing.
This is my final call here from SpaceX. So Brooke signing off.
So incredible to get an inside look to their training. Only 553 humans have reached have been to orbit, and most of those traveled as part of government or country-specific missions. As a result, the research conducted on those missions, particularly as it relates to humans in space, is often only accessible by the country or government that conducted the research. Think about the possibilities if the data from all those missions could be made available to the broader science community for research. Inspiration 4 is a step in that direction.
The crew of Inspiration 4 will conduct research in orbit that has the potential to improve human health here on Earth and for future space explorers. One of the cool things about this mission is that all biomedical data collected during the mission, things like heart rhythm and rate, blood oxygen saturation, among other things, will be accessible for research.
And to that end, SpaceX and the Inspiration 4 crew are partnering with TRISH, the Translational Research Institute for Space Health, to collect data and biological samples from the crew before, during, and after this historic spaceflight. Part of NASA's Human Research Program, TRISH is a virtual institute that finds and funds disruptive science and medical technology in order to reduce health and performance risks in space explorers.
Yeah, we saw Kate with Diana earlier putting on some really colorful sunglasses. They're not really sunglasses, but it was an experiment about how do we understand motion sickness and sort of the ups and downs in space. That is something I'm super excited about because I get a lot of motion sickness here, and so I'm hoping that it helps a lot of people.
Cool to see firsthand some of the equipment that the crew has in their cargo hold. Like we've said before, this is a science mission in addition to it's a 3-day science mission basically. And one of the other things that Diana showed us was the ultrasound reader and how the intracranial fluid changes while you're in space. So lack of gravity essentially means that instead of the fluids in your body being concentrated towards your feet, they kind of they equalize towards your head, which can affect vision. And they are planning to use that ultrasound reader, which they just plug right into an iPad to do readings live inside Crew Dragon of their eyeballs while they're in space for 3 days.
That was so cool to see.
Yeah.
In addition to all the awesome science going up on today's mission, the Inspiration 4 team is also using this mission to bring awareness and help fundraise for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. The Children's Research Hospital opened in Memphis, Tennessee in 1962, and ever since has been committed to finding cures for kids with cancer and other life-threatening diseases, regardless of their socioeconomic status, race, belief, or ethnicity. St. Jude has invented treatments that help to push the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% in the United States. In developing countries, that number is unfortunately not that high, with fewer than 1 in 5 children with cancer surviving. St. Jude has a bold mission to change that.
The Inspiration 4 mission is part of an ambitious
Hola, ahí me están escuchando. Tuve un problema con el micrófono, con el sistema de audio.
The goal is to raise $200 million for St. Jude. Jared already committed
ver si me
$100
escuchan.
million. Jared already committed $100 million of his own money, and the team has raised
Ok,
about
Daniel,
$30
¿cómo
million
estás?
so far.
Bueno, un saludo a
But we still have
todos.
ways to
Tuve un
go. If
inconveniente
you're
en
watching
todo el
on
sistema de
YouTube,
audio de
you'll
la
notice that there's a
computadora.
donation button where you
Por
can
lo
make your own
menos
contribution.
a
Any
media
amount, big or
hora
small, makes a big difference, and it's
del
super
momento
easy to do. So go ahead and
histórico
click the
del
donate button and
lanzamiento
give what you can to
de
help
la
save a child's life.
Inspiration 4 o 4, como quieran decirlo.
Beyond the good, this mission
¿Cómo
will
les
do
va
for
a todos?
science and
Gracias por
childhood
estar en
cancer.
la
This mission is also
transmisión.
exciting because it's the debut
Realmente
of
estamos
the
viviendo un
Dragon
momento maravilloso, un
And we
momento
have some
increíble
footages here of the
dentro de
Kugla.
la
It is going to be the
historia
largest
aeroespacial. 4
continuous window in
civiles
space
van al
ever by a
espacio.
factor of 2 and has over 2,000 square
Gente que
inches of
efectivamente,
viewing
como
area.
decían acá en el chat, no están involucrados dentro de la NASA.
Yeah, and there's a lot that
Y la
went
verdad,
into
no sé si ustedes han
the
tenido la oportunidad de ver el
design for
documental
this.
de Netflix.
You know, this is going to
La verdad que
outer space, so it
maravilloso,
needs
un
to be
documental que
designed and
nos muestra
tested
cómo
for,
gente
you know,
común,
all the loads that
normal y
we'll see while it's
corriente,
out in space.
accede de
It's a
pronto al
great
espacio
view to look
con
out of,
una
but it
gran
also needs to act as a fully
frescura, con
functioning
una gran
portion of the
espontaneidad, con una gran
spacecraft.
Yeah,
sonrisa.
we were talking
La
about
verdad que me
reusability
emocionó
earlier,
mucho, me
and this
conmovió
capsule is
verlos,
being used for the second time
escucharlos
on this mission. It
y ver
previously supported the
de
Crew
pronto
1
la
mission
respuesta
in
que gente
November
común
of
tiene
last
ante la
year.
noticia de saber
But
que va al
this cupola
espacio,
is
sus
brand new
familiares preocupados,
to
por
this
supuesto,
capsule,
porque
brand
no
new to
deja de ser un
SpaceX.
vuelo
We're debuting it
riesgoso.
on this mission,
Y la
and
única
it is
sensación que a mí
there's
me dio
a
mirando la
movement there
serie
in the
es,
anechoic chamber,
¿no es demasiado
and
realmente?
it's
¿No es
just
demasiado someterse a
incredible
6G
that
en las
we're
centrifugadoras?
basically
¿No es
gonna
demasiado
have
enviar gente
360
que la verdad
views
no
of
tiene
space
conocimiento de los
from
sistemas de la nave, por más que
the
los han preparado
forward hatch there
durante todos estos
of the
meses?
Crew Dragon capsule?
Pero bueno, no se puede comparar con el training que
And
tienen
this is an
astronautas
animation
profesionales que están
showing
años a
how
veces, ¿no? A pesar de que
it's
toda la misión es
positioned in Crew Dragon is a
automatizada, eso
little
está bien.
different. So
Pero
Crew
si
Dragon
algo
used
pasara,
to
ellos
dock
tienen que estar en
autonomously,
condiciones de
or does
solucionar.
dock autonomously to
Esperemos
the
que todo
International
salga
Space
bien. Es
Station,
un momento
back
histórico
there being underneath the
porque
nose
¿qué va a
cone,
venir
and that
después de
had
esto?
was
¿Qué
removed,
va a venir
and
después
for
de
this
esto?
mission is now
En lo
replaced
que
by the
durante este
cupola, as
año
we
nada
just
más
saw.
hemos
So
tenido
super cool,
dos
new piece of
eventos
hardware that
de
I'm so
gente
stoked
que ha
to see
ido al
launch here.
espacio. Tal bien, tal vez
As
han
we
llegado al
await
borde, han
teaser
tocado
in
el
about
límite del
23
espacio,
minutes, the
como es el
ground operations
caso
teams
de Blue
are doing a
Origin y Virgin
series of system
Galactic.
checks to make sure both the
Pero
Dragon and
en
Falcon
estos
9 are
momentos
ready for
estamos
launch.
hablando de
Let's
gente
take
que
a
va a
look
ir
at what
a
the
estar
ascent portion of the
3
mission will
días
look
en el
like.
espacio, estando
Once
en la
we hit
ingravidez,
T0, we will watch Falcon
orbitando
9
la
and
Tierra.
Dragon lift off from
Esto ha
historic launch
ocurrido en
pad
el año
39A and make
2021.
their ascent.
¿Qué puede pasar
At
el
about
año
50
próximo? ¿Qué
seconds
puede
into
pasar en
flight,
5
Falcon 9's
años? Ahora,
engines
dentro de
will
pocos
throttle down
días,
to help pass
va
through the
también
period of
una
maximum dynamic pressure
astronauta,
on the rocket, or what we
eh,
typically refer to as max Q.
una
It is
actriz,
worth noting that once we hit
una
max
actriz
Q, the
rusa,
vehicle
sí,
will
porque van a
begin
filmar una
descent.
película con su director,
Once
está
we are
bien,
through
van
the
acompañados
period
por
of
astronautas
maximum dynamic
profesionales,
pressure, we
pero es
can
gente
throttle
también
up
común y
on the road
corriente,
and
ya de la
begin.
industria del cine. A
From
fin de
here,
año va a ir el
we are
japonés
about we are
que
about 2.5
piensa ir también
minutes
a la
into
Luna en
flight.
una
We have a
misión el
series
año
of
2023.
events that happen in rapid
Y
succession.
ahora esta gente,
First
estas
is
4
MECO, or
personas allí
ENSO, or
solitas
main
que
engine
van a
cutoff.
estar,
This
y
is where
además me
all
encanta
9
la
Merlin
química que
engines
tienen
shut
en el
off in
equipo,
preparation
cómo se
for set
protegen
for
entre
stage
ellos, cómo se
separation.
abrazan, cómo
Stage separation is where the
recién cuando
first stage
subieron
detaches from the second stage,
digamos, a ese
with the first
puente
stage making its way
maravilloso,
back to Earth
tan
for landing, as
hipermoderno
the
que ha
second
puesto
stage
SpaceX
continues
para
on
acceder a
its
la
journey
Crew
to
Dragon,
the third event.
uno los
With
veía ahí
phase
como turistas
SES-1
mirando
or
por las
second into
ventanas,
start
mirando por los
one, and that is
cristales,
where the Merlin vacuum
emocionados,
engine on
con
the
una
second stage lights
sonrisa,
up and
sobre todo
propels the
esta
second
chica de
stage
color,
along
Cyan
with our
Proctor,
Inspiration 4 crew
no para de
to orbit.
reírse.
As
Además, es
stage
tan
2 heads
emocionante
towards
toda su
its
historia, no
targeted
sé,
drop-off
los que
orbit,
vieron el
stage 1 will
documental,
execute
ella
two
cuenta que
burns
el
or
padre
make its way
trabajó con
back
la
to Earth.
NASA en una
The
estación
first
de
is the engine
rastreo,
burn,
creo
which
que en
is where 3
Australia,
of those
bueno,
9
no me
Merlin
acuerdo dónde,
1B
en Guam,
engines
donde nació,
reignite and then
una
shut
estación de
down,
rastreo, porque
and that will
claro,
help
como
slow the
todas
stage
las
down in
misiones que van al
preparation
espacio
for
se necesita
entry
una
back
red de
into the Earth's
antenas, ¿no?
atmosphere.
Y claro, los
While the
astronautas
first stage
luego,
is heading
cuando
back to
volvieron a la
Earth, the
Tierra,
second
hicieron toda
stage will
una
cut
gira
off
para
its
agradecer
one
a toda la gente
Merlin
que
engine
participó en la
that
misión
was ignited right after
bueno, le
stage
firmó un
separation.
autógrafo. Y todavía el
Once
padre
this
conservaba
happens,
el
we will wait
autógrafo de
for
Neil
confirmation
Armstrong.
of a good
Lamentablemente el
orbital
padre
insertion.
falleció, pero ella decía,
About
qué
90
orgulloso
seconds
estaré
after
mi papá
Dragon gets
realmente de
into
verme
orbit,
ir al
Falcon 9 will
espacio.
land back on Earth.
Y es tan
This
emotiva
landing
ella
burn,
todo
a
lo que cuenta.
single
La verdad que
engine burn, will
me
bring the
encantan
vehicle speed
todos.
down rapidly.
La verdad que
Once
acá el
land on
único
the
que un
drone
poco
ship,
la tiene
about
clara
9.5
es Jared
minutes
Isaacson,
into the
el
mission.
comandante.
While
Bueno, Cyan
Falcon
Proctor
9
también,
first
ella ha
stage is
volado en
landing,
aviones.
Dragon is preparing to separate from the
Pero
second
bueno,
stage.
nada, la verdad
At about
que
3 minutes after the second stage
un
gets
momento
we should have
increíble.
a great
Están
view
mostrando
of
ahí en
Dragon with its
un dibujito
four-person
cómo hacer
crew
la separación de
drifting
la
away
Dragon.
from the second stage.
Aquí
Once
no hay
Dragon
tanto
is a
problemas con
short
las
distance
ventanas de
away, it will
lanzamiento,
begin
decían,
taking
porque
out
acá no hay
its
que
Draco
interceptar la
maneuvering
ISS, ¿eh?
thrusters
Por
to
allí
make sure
preguntaban.
Dragon
De vuelta,
continues
como
to
ya lo han
increase
aclarado
separation
algunos,
distance from the second
aquí
stage.
la verdad no tenemos que interceptar ningún satélite, no hay una ventana. Están eufóricos los de SpaceX. Aquí no hay, digamos que, como les decía, interceptar un satélite. Si no se puede lanzar a las 21:10 minutos, se lanzará 5 minutos después. Tienen como varias oportunidades. No es tan estricto, ¿no? Sé que ya han armado la cápsula de escape. Es una cosa que me sorprendió. Dicen que si hubiera que utilizar la cápsula de escape, tendría que soportar 20G. A ver, yo no pude seguir con 3G cuando lo probé en la NASA. ¿Ustedes saben lo que son 20G? Yo creo que el récord lo tenía un astronauta de la NASA con 22G. Eso si tuvieran que utilizar la cápsula para escaparse. A ver, ¿qué están diciendo?
If I had to choose between Star Wars, Star Trek, and then one of my other favorites is Stargate, as G1, I would rather trek across the universe than fight my way.
I've heard, are you a Star Wars guy? Are you a Star Trek guy?
Está hablando de las series de ciencia ficción, ¿cuáles son las
Those used to be
preferidas?
true. I really think I'm a Battlestar Galactica guy, to be honest.
There's no question. it's
Stargate
Star Wars.
dijeron los primeros dos.
Like I'm a Star Wars fan.
Él
for
es de
sure.
Star Wars.
I would say that if I had to guess, it's a split crew between.
Ah,
Star
no,
Wars
yo
and
soy de
Star
Star Trek, ¿eh? Y
I don't know if anyone else would have dropped Battlestar Galactica. I don't know on that one.
Can't beat Captain Adama.
I think Jared is Star Wars. Cyan is Star Wars. Chris is the wild card, but I think he's Star Wars.
Oh, Jared is definitely Star Wars. I think Chris is probably Star Trek, but I'm not 100% sure. And I would think that Haley, she's the youngest. So I think maybe Star Wars. I think Star Trek.
están hablando de lo que creen que cada uno les gusta la serie, ¿sí?
Oh, I'm Star Trek.
Bueno, un saludo a todos.
I
A
wanna be
Kiara
done.
Kalchek
I kinda
con
am.
20
I'm
G que ha hecho una empanada. No, es impresionante. Pero hubo uno que hizo 22, ¿sí? Un saludo para Jimbo, ahí va. Hola Rubén Domínguez, ¿cómo te va? Aguante Stargate, es buena la serie, me gustan todas. Pero sobre todo me gusta Star Trek. ¿eh?
They don't know they're wrong. Like that just they'll learn that over time. Like
I like Jared's
Me vi
hand,
todas las
little
películas,
comment there.
sí.
They don't know they're wrong. When you're the commander of the mission, I wonder what your vote
Seba
counts.
Aguirre, cuando Sion se entera que va al espacio de lo más emotivo. No, es
Everything
impresionante.
continues to go
Imposible que
well.
no se
We're
te
getting
escape una
ready to
lágrima
start
ahí, ¿no?
box loading on the second stage. That'll bring us
Y
another
sí,
step
Star Wars
closer
para
to
mí es
launch
más,
at 8:02:56
es más como un
p.m.
cowboy
Eastern
espacial,
Daylight
¿no?
Saving
Veo
Time.
más ciencia ficción
Falcon
en
9 is going
Star
to
Trek.
take Dragon into its orbit of about 190 by 575
Los astronautas se
kilometers.
ven borrosos, mal
Shortly after
enfocados.
that, we will raise Dragon's orbit to
No sé, es la
575
transmisión como me
kilometers
está
in
llegando a
circular
mí.
orbit.
Ya
Higher
dentro
than
de un
the
ratito
space
le voy a
station,
hacer
higher than the space
una
telescope.
actualización,
For 3 days, a series of amazing views that Jared and the
porque
team should
siempre hay
have
lógicamente
looking
un
through the
delay, ¿no?
windows and the cupola up there on the
Hola
Inspiration
Jonathan
4
Villalba,
Dragon.
saludos de Perú.
This crew will see
Sí, lleva
about 15
oxígeno,
orbits a day
oxígeno
at this
líquido.
altitude. They'll get to experience
De Mission
15
Space al
sunrises
vos
and
hiciste
15
Mission
sunsets,
Space, eso
which
está en
should be
Epcot,
pretty
¿no?
incredible.
Daniel
And just
Crespo
as a
dice.
comparison,
Y son 2,5
John
G.
mentioned
Bueno,
the International
fíjate que
Space
yo no lo
Station is going
hice
to be a little bit lower than
y
where
ahora,
this crew is going
la última
to,
vez que fui,
because the
te dan otra
International Space
opción,
Station
una
is
opción más
closer,
suave,
takes a little
en la
less
cual no
time
te
to
moves
orbit
como
the
un
Earth, so
carrusel
they
en la
see
centrífuga, en la cual es
16
como un
orbits a
simulador
day,
así mecánico que se
relative
mueve
to
en el
what this
lugar.
Inspiration
Porque
4
murió una
crew will
persona
see will be
incluso
15 orbits a day.
en Mission Space o Mission Mars, no me acuerdo cómo se llama,
On what we're seeing on screen.
en,
This is the
en
Falcon
Epcot,
9 rocket.
porque era una centrífuga y la verdad que sí, te someten a eso.
That was the call up for stage 2 liquid oxygen loading.
Hola amigo.
You can start to see some white clouds around Falcon 9.
Hola
That is
María
normal
Cuadrielo, ¿cómo
and
estás?
expected
María
for us at this stage in the countdown. We are topping off
forma
at super
parte del
chilled
Club
liquid
Ecos de un Mundo
oxygen. And when it
Estrellado,
reaches
de
the
la plataforma de
warmer
telescopios
ambient
SLU.
air
Quienes
temperatures
siguen el
above
canal
4, it
habrán
starts
visto
to
que le
condense
hacemos
and bubbles flying,
propaganda
you see.
y ha tomado muy lindas fotos.
Now,
Aprovecho
if
para
you notice that
felicitarte
the
nuevamente
second
aquí
stage
ante toda la
there
gente,
is a
pues son
slightly
muy lindas.
whiter
Todavía te debo una, que
shade
no tuve tiempo
than
de
the first
publicarla,
stage. That's
M27, creo que la
because
nebulosa de la
the first
campana, ¿no?
stage has
La
been
nebulosa de
reused
Dumbbell.
twice before.
Hace 2 o 3 días
Previously
estuve por allí
supporting
mirando en la zona de la
GPS
constelación de la
3.4 and
Lira
GPS
con
3.5
nuestro
missions
telescopio en el
back
Observatorio
in
Astronómico de
2020
Orbital.
and 2021 of this
Nexos
year. So
MX, como siempre,
that
muy
booster
agradecido
is
por tus
making
videos
its
y
third
vivos,
flight
donde nos
today.
das toda la
The
información que
Dragon capsule
necesitamos.
is
Bueno, es un
making its
gusto.
second flight. It previously flew on the NASA Crew 1
La
mission
NASA
to
no
the
deja que
International Space
aterrice con los
Station.
motores
So
Dragon,
that's why
¿cierto?
the second
Dice Alvis
stage
Barrios.
looks a little
Que
different than the
aterrice,
first
pero en
stage
realidad el
there.
aterrizaje es un amerizaje como lo ha hecho la Crew Dragon, Alvis,
Again, if you're just
directamente en
now
el océano,
joining us, you are
con
tuned
paracaídas.
in to the first all-civilian mission to orbit known
José
as
Juan,
Inspiration
hola,
4.
con el
It's getting
saludo
very
de
exciting here. We're just a
Long
little
Live and
over
Prosper.
T-15 minutes from
Gracias, Felipe.
T0.
We started
Saludos de Chile.
covering the action at T-4
Muchas gracias. De
hours,
República
with the
Dominicana,
crew
Felipe
walking
Núñez.
out,
Yo vivo,
Hangar
Chabelín,
X.
en
They made
Paraná,
their
Entre
way over
Ríos,
to
en
the
República
Falcon Support
Argentina.
Building,
¿Sí?
where they got suited up. And then we
Un
saw
día
them
será
hop in
realidad
their
la
Teslas,
película
ride up to the
Pasajeros.
pad,
Linda la
go
vida la
up the fixed
película.
service structure,
¿Cuánto falta
walk
para el
down
lanzamiento?
that
Fíjate,
lit
está la cuenta
crew
regresiva,
access arm and see
14:46 en
they're
estos momentos.
connecting Falcon 9
Tengo un
to the
retraso de 15
tower.
segundos ya le voy a hacer
And
una
it's
actualización.
hard to believe that we're now under 15 minutes before launching the first all-civilian mission to orbit. Again, these are for non-professional astronauts. They're people just like us, and they're going to be going to space for 3 days. They're going to be orbiting Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. So they're basically going so fast that they won't fall back to Earth until we tell Dragon to do so. And they're going to be going up to a height of 575 kilometers.
Yep, and at those speeds and at those altitudes, they're going to be doing a tons of science, which is super cool. And all of that data is going to be available for folks to continue to push the boundaries of what human space exploration will be in their near future.
So that's a live view of Falcon 9 with Crew Dragon for the Inspiration 4 mission sitting on top. There we can see our 4 soon-to-be astronauts there, comfortable in their seats. Throughout the day, we have seen a lot of camaraderie, a lot of joking, and I imagine that things are starting to get a little more serious. They're really focusing in on the task at hand, which is going to space in just a little over 13 minutes.
Yeah, this is very exciting. If you've been following along, they do have a Netflix documentary following their journey all the way up until this point. And the crew has just been so incredible. It's been so amazing to watch them throughout this whole process, and very excited to see them strapped in their seats, ready to go.
We're just inside T-minus 13 minutes, counting down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon at 8 hours, 2 minutes, 56 seconds Eastern Daylight Saving Time, coming up very shortly. Falcon 9 did begin propellant loading on time at T-minus 35 minutes. Loading of the RP-1 kerosene fuel onto the second stage is complete. That closed out right on time. Fuel loading is continuing on the
Bueno, vuelvo.
first stage tank.
Sí,
About half full
SpaceX
right
está
now.
jugando mucho, Rubén. Yo pienso que sí, porque es la primera vez que tenemos realmente,
We're continuing to load
bueno, gente
densified liquid
común,
oxygen onto the
civiles,
first stage
yendo al
and into the
espacio.
second stage tanks.
Es gente novata, gente sin experiencia. Y por más que esté automatizado todo el vuelo, yo pienso que Elon y toda la gente deben tener una gran ansiedad. No son astronautas profesionales, van a estar 3 días solos, por más que los hayan entrenado, por más que haya una comunicación constante con Houston. No sé. Sí, se juega mucho. Esperemos que todo salga bien. De allí la ansiedad y los nervios que uno tiene, ¿no?
Weather. We've had great cooperation out of the Florida weather, both ground level, upper altitude, and around the world at the contingency
Saludos
landing
de
sites.
Montreal, dice Daniel Adano. Sí, un gran momento. Desde Montevideo, Uruguay. Hola, Daniel Marino.
Crew access arm that you can see is retracted away from the Dragon spacecraft. We
A
armed the
ver,
launch escape system
respecto,
on time. And the
deme un
right-hand side of the
segundo.
monitor, you can see the 4-person crew strapped in, and they are ready to go. Coming up in about a minute, we're going to get final instructions to the crew at T-minus 10 minutes. They're going to configure their crew displays for launch, and that's a setup that'll give the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding, and it'll provide updates on vehicle health. Then we'll get a little closer at T-minus 5 minutes. We'll be into terminal count for the Dragon spacecraft. Dragon will go to
Increíble, sí, la
power.
imagen estaba
Again,
muy mal,
continue
ahora está
call-outs on
bien.
the countdown net as we get close to zero and a liftoff.
Sí, había bajado la resolución totalmente. No sé por qué, porque tengo 50 megas acá, pero bueno, bajó. Ahí lo arreglé. Gracias por hacérmelo notar. Porque a veces uno está mirando varias cosas y pantallas y charlando y contestando preguntas y se va perdiendo esas cosas. Disculpen, ¿eh? Sí, sí, gracias.
Chilling into the engines to get ready for engine ignition down at about T-minus 2 seconds. Let's listen in on the countdown net for a minute.
Hola, Cristian. ¿Cómo estás? Desde
Dragon,
Bahía Blanca.
SpaceX. Confirm crew displays are configured for launch.
Está todo configurado para el lanzamiento.
SpaceX Dragon, our displays are configured for launch.
Todo listo para el lanzamiento.
Copy that, Dragon. And it has been an absolute honor to prepare you for this historic flight.
Y la verdad que no se paró la cuenta desde que yo empecé a ver. No se ha detenido en ningún momento. Hola desde Uruguay, Psicodelic. Son solo 3 personas. No, son 4 personas las que van. Tal vez no ves la cuarta que está más allá. Son dos hombres, 2 mujeres. Uno es un hombre de negocios, una geóloga, una asistente médica y el otro creo que es una especie de ingeniero informático, una cosa así. Hola Dino Di Luca desde Carmen de Patagones, desde Pirané, Formosa. Hola Seba, vos sabés que yo estuve en Pirané. Estuvimos con el planetario móvil hace varios años. Parece mentira, pero estuvimos allí. El tema de ir al baño, tienen unos aparatitos para succionar justamente todos los residuos, ¿no? Tal cual lo tiene la ISS. Es todo por succión. Ahí va a parar todo. Y seguramente tendrán algo que los procese químicamente, ¿no? A todos los detritus. Saludos de Cartagena, Colombia. Bueno, los voy saludando a todos. Saludos de Maryland. En lo profundo de Formosa, sí, estuve por allí y estuvimos en Chaco, en todo un viaje que hicimos. Estuvimos en la escuela de gestión privada y estuvimos en la escuela pública, en las dos, confundando funciones del planetario. Y así hemos recorrido lugares alejados. Qué aburridos deben estar allí. Dice, bueno, mirá, no sé si aburridos deben estar con unos nervios. Yo no sé qué habrán tomado, tranquilizantes. De vuelta, esta no es gente profesional. Por allí, Jared, que es el hombre que tiene más experiencia como piloto, puede ser el que tenga más sangre fría en estos momentos. Por más entrenamiento que hayan hecho, es la primera vez que van al espacio. Es en Cabo Cañaveral, sí, en el Centro Espacial Kennedy. Gracias, Everything Recorner. Buenas tardes, saludo de México. Gracias por las felicitaciones. Sí, cómo durmieron, ¿no? Esta gente. Pero tienen una alegría ahí en el rostro. Bueno, se han preparado medio año para esto, ¿no? Y llegó finalmente el momento. Me imagino que cuando estás en esa situación, vos decís, bueno, ya está, basta, quiero salir. Ha comenzado el enfriamiento, dice, de los motores. O sea que estamos viendo esas nubes blancas típicas, ¿no? Cuando se producen estos lanzamientos del oxígeno líquido. Se ve feo, dice Alejandro, ahora se ve bien, ¿eh?
The fuel load, the RP-1 kerosene, refined petroleum 1, rocket propellant 1 grade, is loaded onto the first stage. So that leaves us with just liquid oxygen loading continuing on both first and second stage.
Bueno, dice que el combustible se acaba de almacenar en la primera etapa, ahora lo está haciendo en la segunda, en la superior. Rosarina, se ve bien y elegimos verlo acá para escucharlo también. Gracias, bueno, muy amable. Muy amable. Supongo que cada uno por ahí tiene su público y su forma de contar las cosas, ¿no? La verdad que sí, muchos nervios. Ojalá veamos en pocos años que estos lanzamientos son cada vez más frecuentes y cada vez más personas puedan ir al espacio. Yo por el momento me gustaría teleportarme como en Star Trek. No me veo realmente todavía sometiéndome a 6G allí adentro. Más allá de toda la épica que tiene esto, ¿no? Pero subir esa colina es un poco difícil. Todo está bien, dice, siguiendo el cronograma.
is the two
3 días de
hydraulic
órbita,
clamp
sí.
arms will open up coming up here very shortly.
¿En cuántos años en la Argentina? Y no sé, estamos lejos, ¿no? Estamos lejos, con todos los problemas que tenemos. Y hoy ha sido un día bastante movidito en la Argentina, les cuento, todos los que están fuera de nuestro país, renuncias masivas de ministros, todo Así que la televisión argentina no se está ocupando en estos momentos de este hecho. Lo estamos haciendo los canales casualmente
As you can see
especializados.
on the timeline there, at the bottom of your screen, the strong back retraction is the next
Alvis va a
major
durar
event.
3 días en
In
principio.
fact, the last physical event or modification to the pad prior to liftoff.
3 minutos
Falcon 9
47.
is nearly fully loaded with almost 1 million pounds of liquid
Prácticamente
kerosene
dice
and
que
liquid
está
oxygen.
completamente lleno ya,
That
con 1
liquid
millón de
oxygen is what you see
libras
venting there.
de combustible. Ahí miren cómo se está separando la plataforma, que es retráctil.
All right, and there on your screen you can see that the strong back is beginning to retract.
And Kate, that strong back will move back just a couple of degrees you see here. Then
Un par de
at
grados.
T0, when the
Se
Falcon
aleja.
9 sends the liftoff command to the ground to release it, hydraulics will bring that strong back the rest of the way to about a 45-degree position at liftoff.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
We've got the call out right on time. First
Hola,
stage liquid oxygen
Macanto,
load is
saludos de
complete.
Chile, Curicó.
Shutting down the ground pumps. We're down to just loading second stage liquid oxygen.
Ya se ha llenado la segunda etapa con oxígeno líquido y el aplauso de todos los chicos que trabajan, chicos y grandes, supongo que trabajan en SpaceX. Lo estará mirando Jeff Bezos. Qué odio que le tiene Jeff Bezos a Elon Musk. Supongo que sí, ¿no? Ese humo es como vapor, digamos, ante el oxígeno líquido frío que entra ahí, ¿no? Todo normal, todo corriente. La jefa de operaciones SpaceX, 27 años, impresionante. Y la chica que los asistió en todo el entrenamiento, los astronautas que se ven en el documental de Netflix, también. Yo creo que se involucró emocionalmente con ellos, ¿no? Como no lo ha hecho con astronautas profesionales, porque la verdad que siente que son sus discípulos y imagino que va a seguir con unos nervios ahora. Contaba ella en el documental, porque ella ha estado en el control de misión en otras misiones, que en un momento dado los astronautas de una de las Crew Dragon pasaron un momento peligroso con un pedazo de chatarra espacial y en un momento dado pensaron que los iba a golpear y al final no pasó nada, pero fueron muchos minutos de tensión, lo contó. Y medio que se emocionó cuando lo recordó. ¿Cuánto duran en llegar? Son pocos minutos, viste que en 10, 11 minutos ya están en el espacio. Bueno, están 1 minuto 20. Acá lo dejo, listos para el lanzamiento. Se viene. Voy a subir el volumen. De la transmisión original. Bueno, hacemos silencio, ¿sí? Godspeed, como dicen en la NASA.
Commander calling down. 30 seconds. Punch it, SpaceX.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff. So thank you. Go Dragons. Go Falcons. Godspeed Inspiration 4.
Copy 1 Alpha.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds. Callouts indicate nominal. Historic mission flying the Inspiration 4 crew. Onboard Dragon.
Ay, los muestran. Qué impresionante. Muestran el interior de la cápsula. Se los ve tranquilos allí.
Into the throttle bucket.
Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in preparation for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Se viene el momento de máxima presión dinámica.
And then the flight.
It's supersonic.
Ya el vuelo supersónico. Casi uno lo puede decir de memoria esto porque lo hemos visto tantas veces. Pero este es un vuelo muy especial.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Max
We're through the
Q.
period of maximum dynamic
Ahí
pressure.
está, la máxima presión dinámica.
We're throttled back up and 1 Bravo, the call out from space. That's one of the abort sequences. That is a nominal call. Everything continues to be good.
Todo se ve bien.
Looks like a smooth ride for the crew.
Están contentos, mira cómo están con los dedos ahí. No se ha visto eso, ¿eh? Me parece que con la Crew Dragon realmente lo hemos visto una vez que han estado en órbita, pero no en el momento del lanzamiento.
Okay, we heard the call out. MVAC is chilling. We're beginning to get the turbo pump ready on the second stage engine for ignition. We're passing through 3 Gs
La
acceleration.
euforia se ve,
Everything continues
se
to
produce
look
porque se
nominal.
encendió la segunda etapa y 3G, ya ahí están sintiendo 3G.
Merlin
Stage
engines are
1
throttling
throttle
down
down.
for G limiting. 4 Gs, we're holding it there for the crew.
4G están sintiendo ya.
Major event coming up will be main engine cutoff, followed by stage
Y ahí se va a
separation,
separar la
looking at
primera
the second
etapa
stage
de
engine
la etapa
nozzle,
superior.
and then ignition of the second stage.
And Miko.
Mico, ahí se produjo. Y ahí está. Como un relojito, ¿eh? Como lo hemos visto tantas veces.
Forward has a call, and you can see on your screen there on the right-hand side that the second stage has ignited. That's the MVAC engine. I'm sure the crew felt another kick in the G's there as it ignited. Officially, the Inspiration 4 crew are
Qué
now on their
extraordinario.
way to space.
Oficialmente, la tripulación de Inspiration 4 están yendo al espacio.
Way back down to Earth. The grid fins have popped out to assist with the steering. It will be making a landing attempt on our drone ship. Just read the instructions, which is parked out and holding position in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, so we have a couple of views on
Acquisition
screen.
of signal, Bermuda.
A la izquierda se ve como siempre la primera etapa que va a descender.
Looking down, that has already separated from the second stage and it's making its way back to Earth. The velocity of the first
Dragon
stage
SpaceX trajectory nominal.
is being tracked on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. On the right-hand side of your screen is a view of our second stage Merlin
Claro.
vacuum engine.
Están mostrando las telemetrías de la primera etapa y la segunda etapa, a la izquierda y a la derecha, donde se ve la velocidad y la altura, ¿no? En kilómetros.
Normally with them, and you can also track the velocity on the second stage on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. We also have awesome views of the crew inside of their capsule as well.
Realmente increíbles vistas de la tripulación dentro de la cápsula. Es algo que no se lo ha visto.
I'm pretty sure I saw Dr. Cyan Proctor give us 2 thumbs up. I'm sure she enjoyed this ride that she's been waiting for her entire life.
Claro. Cyan Proctor lo estuvo esperando toda la vida y dice que con los 2 pulgares subió, estaba contentísimo.
Horizon is also reflecting off of very high altitude objects, such as the first and second stages.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
Love to hear that call out. Trajectory nominal from the guidance engineer. Also notice we're really up there now, well past 100 kilometers.
Acquisition of signal, New Hampshire.
Just before that view switched, we
Voy a
saw
bajar
some
entonces un poquito el
teammate
volumen
fist bumps going on there inside
de
of
la
the cabin.
transmisión.
Yeah, they look like they're having a fun ride there. And their journey isn't over. We've
Esto a
got
veces
about
requiere
7 more
un
minutes
ajuste
until
fino, ¿no?
Dragon separates from the second stage.
Yo igual les voy contando.
Yes, next milestone for this mission is actually going to be happening on the first stage. It's going to be performing a re-entry burn that's going to be coming up around the T plus 7 minute and 30-second mark. That burn is used to slow down the first stage before it re-enters the denser parts of the atmosphere.
Está hablando del encendido que se va a producir a los 7 minutos, 30 segundos más o menos, de la primera etapa, ¿no? Está hablando de la primera etapa del descenso, que bueno, también siempre le sale muy bien, ¿no? Calculo que va a descender en la plataforma marina. Había 2 plataformas nuevas que estrenaban, ¿no? No sé si en este vuelo. Hola Gilberto, desde Hospital Santo Tomás en Panamá. 200 kilómetros por hora, sí. Ya está mostrando la telemetría en la segunda etapa. Todo se ve bien. Cuando dicen nominal es porque todo está de acuerdo a lo previsto. Y seguramente vamos a tener muchas transmisiones de lo que están viviendo los astronautas en el interior mientras orbiten la Tierra. Así que tengan activadas las notificaciones porque seguramente iremos haciendo otras transmisiones para acompañar un poco esta misión,
Those
¿no?
are the nitrogen puffs helping to steer and guide the vehicle, basically.
Dragon SpaceX trajectory nominal.
200 kilómetros de altitud,
Basically,
perdón,
the
sí, tenés
attitude
razón.
control.
200 kilómetros de altitud. Están yendo a 15.500 kilómetros por hora de velocidad.
There's the crew on the right-hand side of your screen. I think I see some more thumbs up there. Dr. Proctor is clearly excited that she's finally in space. Again, this mission will be orbiting Earth for 3 days, and they will be at an altitude of 575 kilometers, which, if I remember correctly, John you said that is the distance from Los Angeles to the Golden Gate Bridge.
There you go.
575 kilómetros de altura. Ahí se va a encender el cohete. Por eso aplauden. Esa es la etapa que desciende, en la primera etapa. O sea que ha comenzado a frenar.
So what you're seeing on screen on the left-hand side is the entry burn. It's the first of 2 burns on the first stage. Again, this first
Obviamente que no es lo más importante de la misión, el descenso perfecto de la primera etapa es casi una especie de bonus, pero siendo que van personas y tan particulares, allí es donde obviamente tenemos que depositar toda nuestra atención. Esto es histórico, Gina Torres, sí, así es. Es histórico, por eso lo estamos transmitiendo y les agradezco a todos que realmente hayan participado y me hayan acompañado. Si no venían, lo iba a ver yo solo, de todas maneras, eso seguro.
Crew's pulling about 3.5 Gs right now, less than they took on the first stage flight.
So in about 15 seconds, we are expecting
Copy Shannon.
Ahí vamos a llegar a otro momento seco. Ese cutoff es cuando se apaga el encendido de la segunda etapa. ¿Ven? Se apagó porque, bueno, ya están en una inserción orbital, básicamente, ¿no? Y ahí viene el descenso, a ver si se lo ve, de la primera etapa. Y siguen bárbaros los astronautas. Ya deben estar en ingravidez, calculo, ¿no? Sí, ni hablar, están a 200 kilómetros, ya a los 100. Se ve que descendió, se ve pixelado como es habitual. Y aterrizó bien. El típico corte que siempre les pasa cuando descienden la plataforma.
Dragon SpaceX launch escape system is designed.
And you can hear the excitement, we just heard from Jared.
Mirá, y sacaron las tabletas, ¿no? Como verdaderos profesionales, ¿eh? Se los ve tranquilos. Bueno, ya pasaron uno de los momentos más difíciles, ¿no? De mayor tensión.
At the same time, we
Y nos
landed
estamos
our first
acercando
stage
ahí a
of
donde
the
dice
drone
Dragon
ship,
Deploy,
which is super exciting.
que es el momento en el
Jack,
cual, bueno, la
multiple
cápsula
second
Dragón
event.
va a separarse de la segunda etapa.
So there's that MVAC engine, like we mentioned before, it has already shut down in an event known as second engine cutoff. And the crew are now gliding, if you will.
Now, one thing right now is we're coming up just under 11 minutes in the flight. We're waiting another minute and a half or so before we get into the separation sequence. The
Un
second
minuto y
stage
medio
is
para
going
la
through a series
separación,
of
dice.
events where we make sure that gases are all pushed out of the system. There aren't any what they call disturbance torques. We want to make sure that the second stage is very stable, it's quiet, it's not moving around, it's not doing
Tenemos que
anything.
estar seguros, dice, que
We
la
give it a
segunda
few
etapa
minutes to
esté
actually
bien
just vent
estable,
everything
segura, que no
down,
haya
then
gases,
go
que
into
no
quiet
perturbe,
mode.
digamos, a la
Then
cápsula
Dragon
Dragón
will
cuando
send
se
the command
separe.
to separate itself from the Falcon 9. It'll be pushed away. Falcon 9 stays in orbit for a while till it eventually comes back to Earth, and then Dragon moves on its way.
Claro,
Yeah,
la
John, you
cápsula,
talked about
el
terminal path
Falcon 9
earlier
eventualmente caerá luego a
today.
la
And
Tierra,
this is almost similar
mientras
to
que la
that. It's
cápsula
like
Dragon
another check
continuará su
before
camino.
the next thing, before the next event that happens.
The beauty of the countdown.
Okay, we're about 30 seconds away from
30 segundos de la
separation of
separación.
Dragon
Es otro
from
momento
the second
importante.
stage. The view on the left-hand side of the screen is the view of the unpressurized section of Dragon. So it's the sort of back end, the trunk section of the Dragon. So when we do see separation, we'll see that kind of push away from the second stage and make its way into orbit.
Claro, va a haber como un golpe cuando se produzca la separación, dice en la cápsula. No sé qué mostrarán.
Once again, the Inspiration 4 has lifted off from pad 39A. They are now in orbit around Earth.
Ahí está, ahí se separó.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Cae después a la atmósfera terrestre y se quema. Vuelve a la Tierra y no se recupera. La segunda etapa no se recupera. Todo muy bien hasta ahora.
Copy that, Garrus. We really appreciate everyone's help back in LCC.
That was the voice of SpaceX Chief Engineer Bill Gerstenmayer communicating with Inspiration 4 Commander Jared Isaacman.
Recién dijo que estaba en comunicación el jefe de ingenieros con Jerry Saxon, que es el comandante de la misión,
So
¿no?
Dragon has separated away from the second stage, and that's the view that we have on the left-hand side of your screen. A lot of space there.
Expected
The
loss of
next,
signal Bermuda and New Hampshire.
and then the next event that we are anticipating is the opening.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
We're going to open up that nose cone.
Justo le interrumpieron cuando dijo que cuál iba a ser el próximo evento. La apertura de...
Call out nominal Draco checkouts after separation.
Oh, mira cómo están
And
con
there's
las
that
pantallas.
first view that we have over the shoulders of
Hay que
Commander
entrenarse
Jared
para eso,
Isaacman
¿eh?
and pilot Cyan Proctor. Dr. Cyan Proctor is on the right-hand side.
No es un
and,
videojuego,
Jared's on the
están en el
left-hand side.
espacio.
This is
Este es
their
increíble.
dashboard for the next 3 days. These touch screens provide them all of the telemetry and data and information about the systems on board Dragon that they can interact with while on orbit.
Las pantallas, dice, le dan toda la información que necesita sobre los sistemas y lo que está pasando en la nave. El infaltable muñequito en la ingravidez.
A little golden retriever.
Un pequeño perrito
like the
parece.
golden retriever assistance dogs at St. Jude Children's
Yeah.
Hospital. That is apropos.
Ah, del Hospital San Jude. Capaz que
I
de un
love
chico,
it.
¿no?
5th crew member on board with the Inspiration 4 crew.
So in a few seconds here, we are expecting the nose cone to open up and hopefully we'll be able to see
Pablo dice, los 4G ni se notan. Vos decís, bueno, ahora ya no, pero en el lanzamiento tendrías que haber estado ahí para ver si no se notaron los 4G o no. Cuando te empuja el cohete, la
There we
primera
can see
etapa,
that
la
they have
segunda,
just opened up their
uno
visors.
supone que sí, porque está medido eso, ¿no? Sí, la curvatura de la Tierra.
And there
¿Cuánto
is
tiempo
a
se demora una
forward
órbita?
hatch
Calculo que unos 90
inside of
minutos, ¿no? Como la
Dragon
Estación Espacial
between the
Internacional, 1 hora y
cupola and the
media.
crew. So when the nose cone does deploy, they won't immediately get to see out the cupola, but once they can get out of their seats, open up that hatch, they'll get some incredible views of space. And on your right-hand screen is Mission Control Hawthorne at SpaceX headquarters here.
Once again, the cupola is the observation dome that was installed. It's brand new hardware to this mission. It is in place of what was the docking adapter, the docking mechanism that allowed Crew Dragon to previously dock with the International Space Station. Due to the fact that the space station is not our destination today, we were able to pull out that docking mechanism and insert the cupola, which will basically provide a 360 view of space for our passengers inside Crew Dragon Resilience here, which I cannot wait for our first views of the cupola. You know, everything that we've seen on the ground here, it's just incredible. And, you know, to see it actually in action with those 360 views is going to be breathtaking for us. I can't even imagine what it might be like to actually experience it in person.
Yeah, this is going to be incredible. And I can't wait for them to get the first look out and hopefully
Están hablando de la cúpula de vidrio. Quiero ver
we'll get to see some of their reactions when they first look
si
out
nos
that
dicen
window.
cuándo va a ocurrir eso. Cuando la desplieguen y se pueda ver qué es lo que observan a través de del vidrio. Ustedes vieron que esta cápsula Dragon no tiene el adaptador que se utiliza para acoplarse con la Estación Espacial Internacional. Y la han cambiado por una cúpula de vidrio donde van a tener una vista de 360 grados. Y decían ellos recién que no ven la hora de que empiecen a mostrar las vistas y la reacción de tener toda esa imagen de la Tierra allí, ¿no? Me gustaría saber en qué momento se va a poder ver eso, ¿no? A ver si lo podemos ver en la transmisión.
We have now put 4 civilians into space, into orbit. It's been an incredible journey for us to get here. You know, we didn't do this alone. There's a lot of history working with our partners, NASA, to get us to this point. A lot of efforts with reusability and reflying vehicles, which we've seen on this mission particularly. We've reflown the booster 3 times. Dragon, we flew for a second time here.
Está hablando de que el cohete, esta es la tercera vez que se lo lanza, y la cápsula, esta cápsula ya se usó, la Resilience es la segunda vez que la usa. Y bueno, y están un poco contentos porque es la primera vez que van 4 civiles al espacio. Pero claro, para llegar a esto, dicen, hay muchos años de trabajo en los que obviamente ellos han conseguido esta especie de seguridad, ¿no? En que las cosas van a ir bien. Esperemos que todo transcurra así, siga así. Y que todos esos sistemas automatizados, más la capacitación que tienen ellos, les permita disfrutar realmente de este viaje. Rubén dice, mi sueño es tomarme un buen mate amargo. Es difícil tomar mate porque se te va a ir todo el agua del mate al ambiente de la cápsula, ¿no? Ellos utilizan realmente sorbete, pero está todo completamente comprimido en envases, presurizado.
Approaching the coast of Ireland. We're 249 kilometers up, so we're heading from the 200 kilometers where we injected to 575. Then we'll begin circularizing the orbit. But more importantly, we got into contact with the ground station in England, and they confirmed the nose cone is open.
Amazing.
So another major event, the hooks that hold it down have opened up, and then the nose cone deploys itself up.
Parece que ya se abrió la nariz, ya está abierta. Lo han confirmado en una de las estaciones.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, we aren't going to the International Space Station. We're actually just going out into space, into orbit. So they will be doing a couple burns. Another one will be, or the first one will be 45 minutes into flight, and then another 90 minutes into flight. And
dice que los 45 minutos de los 90 minutos van a ser encendidos los motores seguramente para orientar la cápsula, llevarla a la altura correcta, Bueno, todas esas son maniobras que se tienen que hacer de sintonía fina
At this
para
point, it
llevarla a la
sounds like we're
altura que
actually not going to
deseada,
be
¿no?
able to get views of the
Nicolás, te lo
nose cone
perdiste, ¿sí? ¿Qué
opening
te
and of that
pasa? Sí,
cupola.
ya están
So
en el espacio los
unfortunately, we
astronautas.
won't be able to bring that to you
Van
live
20,
at the
20
moment.
minutos, 13.
However, we will be providing
Rebobina para
that
atrás.
footage once it becomes available, and the four of us are super excited to see what our four Inspiration 4 astronauts are going to be seeing over the next 3 days. So at this point, Jared, Haley, Chris, and Cyan are now officially in orbit.
Sí.
Over the next
Dice que,
45 minutes, they'll reach their
dice que
cruising
oficialmente
orbit
están en
and
órbita ahora
spend
los
the
4
next 3
astronautas.
days orbiting planet Earth. We'll be checking in periodically with the crew to see how they're enjoying their first trip to orbit and to check in on those 360 views of space.
If you are curious and want to know where Dragon is at orbiting the Earth, keep tabs on the mission with the Follow Dragon tracker on SpaceX.com.
Yeah, and stay on top of any potential live events that we might be able to have with the crew while they're out in orbit by following us on social.
And finally, for today, the thank yous.
Bueno, yo creo que está terminando la
Eastern Range
transmisión.
for the support getting us through the countdown, the FAA for launch approval, and of course the Inspiration 4 crew for their confidence in SpaceX, getting them into space today.
Así que bueno, gente, yo también me voy despidiendo. Muchas gracias realmente por acompañarme. Un momento maravilloso. Y seguramente en algún momento va a haber otros streaming donde nos van a mostrar qué es lo que ven los astronautas a través de la cúpula de vidrio. Y bueno, también cómo están viviendo en el interior de la cápsula espacial, ¿sí? Así que aprovecho una vez más para agradecerles, no solamente que hayan visto esta transmisión, sino seguir permanentemente los videos que vamos mostrando en el canal. Muchas gracias. Lamento haber tenido algunos problemitas de audio al principio, pero bueno, después lo pudimos solucionar. Muchas gracias nuevamente a todos ustedes. Y hasta la próxima. Tengan las notificaciones, porque si hay otros streaming que realmente lo meriten, aquí voy a estar para que nos seguimos encontrando todos, ¿sí? Muchas gracias.